Pilot lands plane on spot you wouldn't believe. Captain Alex had always known that flying was not for the faint-hearted. It required a certain level of bravery, skill, and composure that few people could muster, but even he was not prepared for what happened on that fateful day. The plane was cruising at an altitude of 35,000 feet and everything seemed to be going well. The passengers were chatting, reading, or sleeping, and the flight attendants were going about their duties. Captain Alex was sitting in the cockpit monitoring the flight instruments when he heard a loud bang. At first, he thought it was just a minor mechanical issue, but when he looked at the control panel his heart sank. The warning lights were flashing and the alarms were blaring. Something was seriously wrong. Hey there, Viral Videos here. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button and click the notification bell. We post the most beautiful, amazing, and scary videos every single day. Let's proceed with the video. He immediately radioed the air traffic control tower, informing them of the situation, but as he tried to troubleshoot the issue, the situation quickly spiraled out of control. The plane began to shake violently and the passengers screamed in terror. Captain Alex tried to maintain his composure, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. The plane was losing altitude rapidly, and he knew that he had to act quickly. He began to search for a safe landing spot, but there was none in sight. He frantically radioed the air traffic control tower asking for their assistance, but the tower was unresponsive and he knew that he was on his own. The situation was becoming dire and he could feel the panic rising in his chest. But then he saw something in the distance, a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. It was a crowded highway and he knew that he had no other option but to land the plane there. As he prepared to make the emergency landing, he knew that he was taking a huge risk. Landing a plane on a highway was something that had never been done before and he had no idea how it would turn out, but he had to take the chance. The passengers were now clinging to their seats, their eyes wide with fear. They knew that they were about to experience something that they had only seen in movies. The tension in the cabin was palpable and Captain Alex could feel it. As he descended towards the highway, he could see the cars coming to a stop. People were getting out of their vehicles trying to see what was happening. The situation was becoming more surreal by the second. But then something incredible happened. Captain Alex managed to land the plane on the highway and no one was hurt. The passengers erupted into cheers and applause and Captain Alex breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that he had just done something that no one would have ever believed. He had landed a plane on a crowded highway and he had saved the lives of everyone on board. The emergency had been averted and he had become a hero. The passengers on the highway couldn't believe what they were seeing. A small plane had landed right in the middle of the road, causing cars to come to a sudden halt. People got out of their cars stunned by the sight. As the dust settled, they could see a man in a pilot's uniform stepping out of the cockpit. He looked around as if taking in the situation and then walked towards the crowd of people. The man was Captain Alex, the pilot who had just landed the plane on the highway. He knew that he had just done something incredible, but he was not prepared for the reaction he received. People were cheering, clapping, and taking pictures. They were amazed by the sight of a plane landing on a highway, and they couldn't get enough of it. They surrounded Captain Alex, asking him questions and patting him on the back. Captain Alex was taken aback by the attention. He had never expected to become an overnight sensation, but he knew that he had done something that would go down in history. As he made his way through the crowd, he could see that the highway had become a spectacle. News helicopters were circling overhead and people were tweeting and posting about the incident on social media. Captain Alex knew that he had landed the plane on a spot that no one would have ever believed, but he was not prepared for the amount of attention it would generate. He tried to remain humble, but it was difficult with all the praise he was receiving. As he walked back towards the plane, he could see that the passengers were still in shock. They had just experienced something that they would never forget, and he knew that he had to reassure them. He walked up to them and with a smile he said, "Don't worry, everyone is safe. We'll be back in the air soon." The passengers breathed a sigh of relief and some of them even shook his hand. They knew that they had just been a part of something incredible and they were grateful to Captain Alex for saving their lives. As the plane was being towed off the highway, Captain Alex looked back at the scene. He knew that he had landed the plane on a spot that no one would have ever believed, but he was also proud of the fact that he had become a hero to so many people. He realized that the world was in need of good news, and he had provided it. The surprising sight of a plane landing on a highway had become a beacon of hope, and he knew that he would never forget the experience. As the news of the incredible landing on the highway spread, people from all over the city rushed to the scene. Among the crowd was a young man named Mark who had always dreamed of becoming a pilot. Mark watched in awe as the plane was being towed off the highway, and he couldn't help but feel inspired by what he had witnessed. As he made his way through the crowd, he heard a woman crying out for help. It was one of the passengers from the plane who was still in shock and had lost her belongings in the chaos of the landing. Mark rushed over to her and offered to help. It was one of the passengers from the plane who was still in shock and had lost her belongings in the chaos of the landing. Mark rushed over to her and offered to help. Together they searched through the scattered luggage and found the woman's purse. She thanked him profusely and Mark couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in himself as he turned to leave. He noticed a group of people huddled around the plane. They were trying to push it towards the side of the highway, but it seemed like they were struggling. Without hesitation, Mark joined in and started to push with all his might. The plane was heavy, but with the help of the other people they managed to move it to the side of the road. As they caught their breath, Mark noticed that one of the engines was still running. He knew that it was dangerous to leave it like that and he offered to help shut it down. With the help of one of the other passengers, they managed to turn off the engine. The crowd cheered as they heard the roar of the engine stop, and Mark couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. He had always wanted to become a pilot, and although he hadn't yet achieved the dream, he had just played a small part in an incredible aviation feat. As he turned to leave, he felt a tap on his shoulder. It was Captain Alex, who had just finished talking to the authorities. "Thank you for your help," Captain Alex said with a smile. "It's people like you who make the world a better place." Mark was taken aback by the pilot's words and he felt a sense of gratitude wash over him. He had never expected to receive recognition for his small contribution, but it meant the world to him. As the crowd started to disperse, Mark made his way back to his car. He couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose and direction. He knew that he had just witnessed something incredible and it had inspired him to pursue his dream of becoming a pilot. He sat in his car for a moment staring out at the highway, and he knew that he would never forget the feeling of being a part of something bigger than himself. As he drove away, he looked back at the scene and saw that the highway was now clear. The plane had been moved and the passengers were safe. He realized that sometimes all it takes is a helping hand to make a difference in the world. As the sun began to set on the city, news of the plane landing on the highway had spread far and wide. The world was in awe of the incredible feat of Captain Alex and his crew. For the passengers, the experience had been harrowing, but they were grateful to be alive. They had been transported to a nearby hospital for a medical checkup, and they were all found to be in good health. As the days passed, the world waited with bated breath for the final investigation report on the cause of the emergency landing. It was revealed that a critical failure in one of the engines had caused the pilot to take swift action to land the plane. Captain Alex was hailed as a hero for his quick thinking and the way he had managed to safely land the plane on the highway. The passengers were also celebrated for their bravery and resilience in the face of danger. In the weeks that followed, the passengers were all invited to a special event to celebrate their survival and the heroism of the crew. It was a happy occasion, and there was an overwhelming sense of gratitude and relief in the air. As the evening drew to a close, Captain Alex took to the stage to address the crowd. He thanked his crew, the emergency responders, and the passengers for their bravery and cooperation during the emergency landing. And most importantly, he said, his voice choked with emotion, "I want to thank the people who were driving on that highway that day. Without your quick thinking and willingness to help, this story might not have had such a happy ending." The crowd erupted into applause and tears streamed down the faces of some of the passengers. They had all been through an experience that had changed their lives, and they were grateful to have come out the other side. As the event came to an end, the passengers hugged each other tightly, exchanging phone numbers and promising to stay in touch. They had formed a bond that could never be broken, and they knew that they had been given a second chance at life. As they made their way home, they couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at the events of the past few weeks. They had witnessed something incredible, and it had changed them forever. For Mark, who had been at the scene of the emergency landing, it was a moment that he would never forget. He had seen the heroism of the crew and the passengers, and it had inspired him to chase his dream of becoming a pilot. As he looked up at the sky, he knew that he would never take a safe landing for granted again, and he knew that he would always be grateful for the people who had made that possible. It was a happy landing indeed, and for those who had been a part of it, it was a memory that would last a lifetime. What did you think of this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe. See you next time.